Okay, so let's talk about creating our reality, or another term, manifestation. Okay, and so it's December 16th. We're halfway into the magical season of Christmas, or I guess it's coming up next week. And I think this time of year brings up thoughts about manifestation or goals or intentions, because obviously the new year's coming, and first I want to touch on the fact that, like, this word manifestation has gotten a lot of, weird attachments on the internet. A lot of people think it's just woo woo, or, you're always hearing about, like, think positive, or, speak affirmations, and all these kind of, like, I would say somewhat surface level things. Like, don't get me wrong, they do play a factor into what we create in our reality. We should be mindful of the words leaving our mouth. We should be mindful of our thoughts. But it goes way deeper than that. And if we think about manifesting, or what we're creating for our reality, first of all, it's constantly happening every second. Okay. It doesn't happen just when we're sitting there and meditating or journaling. Like, yes, those play a factor into it, but what's more important is what we're consistently doing on the daily. So if you think about it, like, okay, maybe you spent an hour meditating and journaling about what you want, but you spent the other 9 to 10 hours in your day thinking negatively, having bad habits, and not living in alignment. Well, what do you think's going to have more power, right? And so when it comes to creating our reality, achieving goals, making things happen, or manifesting, they're all the same thing, okay? We have to look at how we're actually showing up in that process. Because again, it's happening 24/7, whether we realize it or not. Now, why I wanted to talk about this today is because I think there's a couple things that fly under the radar that are super important when it comes to bringing things to life. Okay. And again, I think why it's important to talk about this right now is because 2025 is right around the corner. And, people might be setting New Year's resolutions, or setting intentions for the new year. I'm more of an intentions girl versus a resolutions girl. Um, so that's coming up. But also, people look at the new year in different ways. So January being the New Year's according to the Gregorian calendar, which there's all types of theories about how that's messed up for us, not really in alignment with, uh, natural beings, which we are. If you look at older calendars, like the lunar calendar, they look at the New Year usually as in more like February or March. So more in alignment with springtime, which is from like an energetic standpoint or Mother Nature standpoint. Makes a lot of sense, especially where I'm at in the world. I'm in Edmonton, Alberta. So we have lots of snow and ice right now. So we don't really start to thaw out till about March. So again, we're kind of in hibernation season till then. Once we thaw, it's like now it's the start of fresh energy. If you look at numerology, they look at your new year as your birthday. So then obviously that varies. But regardless, right now is definitely a conversation of unwinding and then setting new intentions or having fresh starts in January, right? And I'm seeing in a lot of people right now, like, despite whatever type of year you've had, whether it's been great or it's been a bit of a dumpster fire, December does wear down on a lot of people. Again, especially where I'm at, we have way shorter days, we have way less light. It's very cold, so you're naturally coming within more, but we're still trying to produce maybe at a high level and keep things going. And let's be honest, the holidays is really busy for a lot of people. And it's also a tough time of year. You might be grieving a loved one. You might be stressed out to see your family, or hopefully you are present and enjoying the moments. But it just, as much as we think the holidays are meant for relaxing and recouping, it's just not the reality for many. So, with that opportunity of knowing that people are starting to think about how they maybe want 2025 to look different for them, I wanted to talk about, again, how we're creating our reality. And the reality of the reality, the truth is is that while we are responsible for our actions and how we show up in the world, there is something we're co-creating with on a daily basis, and that is the universe or God, or whatever you believe in or however you identify it. And some people believe that God has his own plan and agenda, and it's going to happen no matter what. And you know, I don't know if I fully subscribe to that. I do believe in a higher power. I do believe in God. Um, but I do think there's multiple paths that we can take as humans. And I think that as souls, that's the human experience, is you come down here to have a bit of a messy journey, and to navigate that path along the way. And the way God responds or the universe responds is based in your actions. I think if we put everything in his hands, I think that's taking away our experience as humans. But then I also think it's not solely up to us. I think there's a larger energy at play that we can't doubt or discredit. So if we're trying to set the intention of growth, and maybe there's a specific goal you have in mind, maybe that's to make a certain amount of money or create a business or have a loving relationship or have a healthier lifestyle or just be more present, whatever that looks like for you. Again, we don't want to focus just on the 1 hour of meditation and positive affirmations in a day. We need to focus on the other 10, 12, whatever hours you're awake, even when you're sleeping, and what's coming through you, what's coming through your frequency during those hours, because that's having the most impact, right? And don't forget, you can manifest things that are in alignment with what you want, and you can very much manifest things that aren't in alignment with what you want. And when those things come up, it's just an opportunity to learn and grow, of course, and show you where your frequency is currently at. But again, I think there's some really important facts that we need to address when it comes to co-creation. So, fact number one that I think we need to really understand is that if you desire a certain goal in your life, you need to be extremely truthful with where you're currently at and what you want to call in. Okay. And the reason I say this is I've seen people, and I have been the person who has said, I want something, but I'm actually not being fully honest with myself, right? And again, the universe doesn't just respond to voice or to words, it responds to actions and behaviors, okay? And so I have been the person saying that I want, for instance, I'll use my personal relationships. I've said that, I want to be with a partner who, um, is steadfast, who's devoted, who knows what they want, all these things, who's going to have X type of relationship with me. And then when I look at myself and how I'm actually treating myself in the relationship I have with myself, I'm not living up to those same expectations, right? And I'm not being truthful with myself. So if I'm not being truthful with myself, how do I expect anyone in a relationship to be truthful with me as well too, right? And for the record, I'm not actually fully aware of the fact that I'm not being honest with myself, but I know that I'm maybe holding back my feelings, not speaking my truth or my authenticity in the moment, shoving my needs underneath the surface because it's just easier to put someone else's before me, or I fear rejection. All these things are in alignment with inauthenticity or not being honest, right? And therefore, what would happen is that would manifest into my relationships. And so, if we want to create something, if we want to draw a certain reality into existence, we need to be extremely truthful on where we're at. Okay. I have a client, and she currently is in a business partnership that she is not happy with. And so we have spent the last little while, or we had spent one of our recent sessions talking about this partnership and how unhappy she is in it, how frustrated she is, how she feels like she's carrying the weight of the company, how poor decisions have been made without her being included, just all these things. So she said, like, and when she has conversations with her business partner, she feels very unheard, and it sets off her frequency so easily. Like she just shuts down so quickly. It's so triggering to her. And so we were talking about this the other day, and she was venting very, very profusely to me about this. And she's like, I just am trying to find a way to exit this partnership. Like, I can't just think of a way where I'm not going to lose a ton of money. Like, what am I going to do? And it's exhausting her, just trying to think of this exit strategy because she's just so unhappy in this partnership. And so I said, have you actually expressed this to your partner? Like, just like you said it to me? And she said, no. And I said, so how do you expect the universe to provide some type of solution, some type of exit plan for you that's going to be in your highest alignment if you're not even willing to be honest and truthful about the situation? You know, and it really hit her between the eyes. And of course, she wasn't actually trying to not be truthful. And the truth is, I keep saying truth a lot, but and the reality is for her, the reason she hadn't fully spoke up is because she was scared of hurting the other person's feelings. She's like, I'm just so empathetic. I don't want to, I don't want to make them feel bad, and so that's what was her reasoning for not expressing her truth. And I said two things. I said, well, first of all, you know, by you not being truthful to them in the process, you're just lying to everyone involved, including yourself. So you're lying to you, you're lying to them, you're lying to the universe, which we all know what that frequency is based in fear. I said, and the other side of it is you're not scared of hurting their feelings. You're scared of the fact that if their feelings get hurt, they're going to reject you. So it came back to how she was worried about how it was going to affect her in the long run, which the reality is, regardless, she's suffering because she's not happy in the partnership, you know? And so the reason telling your truth is so important is, again, it's like if she's looking for a a good solution to this, whatever that looks like, whether that may be the partner stepping up and realizing, hey, I haven't been pulling my weight, I haven't been handling this relationship right, I'm sorry, and I'm going to get it together. Whether that be a really great exit plan for her, whatever that ends up being, how do you expect the universe to reward you with that solution or that idea if you're not willing to be fully honest about it? Right? And so again, with whatever you're trying to draw into your life, I would ask you, and you might have to sit and write about this, but are you being truly authentic with yourself first? Because if you're not honest with yourself, you're not going to be able to be honest with anybody else. And then are you being honest with all parties involved? And are you being honest with the universe in saying what you do want or what you don't want? Because what you say no to is just as important in this process as what you say yes to. So can you just speak your truth? And even if it comes out a little animated, a little emotional, that's okay, right? But as long as we're downplaying it, coddling it, not speaking our truth, it just plays on the frequency of fear. And nothing that is created in fear is lasting or worth it. Okay? Like that's just the truth. Anything that's created from a frequency of fear has a shelf life of some sort. And I'm assuming you want a life that feels sustainable, that feels free, and that doesn't feel restricting and small and tight. You want a life that feels expansive. And so unless we're creating from this space of expansiveness, you're going to keep kind of running into these dead ends and these patterns and ultimately suppressing your authenticity. And, I just listened to or re-listened to an episode recently with Gabor Mate on Mel Robbins' podcast. And he was talking about how most autoimmune diseases, I've been bringing this up a lot lately, occur in women. And it's not because they're specifically women, it's because women are the most likely to suppress their feelings, to identify with the role of caretaking. So their role is putting everyone else's needs before them, right? And just this aspect of emotional neglect towards themselves. This is why most women have autoimmune diseases. But again, not because they're women, it's because of these patterns we're talking about. So essentially, not honoring their needs or their truth. Okay? So ask yourself, am I being fully real in this moment with what I'm trying to draw in? And see if there's any room or any, hidden nooks where you're not being fully truthful about that. The second thing we need to touch on is looking at if you're actually living from the space of of what you want to bring in. So the first thing is identifying your truth, being really honest about it. Okay. And the second thing is, once you're honest, is am I living in alignment with that? Right. So if I go back to the same partnership with my client, so part of the issue is why she doesn't feel like the partnership is living up to her, the relationship she wants is she feels like she's pulling most of the weight, and she doesn't appreciate how some of the decisions have been handled. So first thing is expressing that. But then the second thing is, what are her actions towards that? So she has very often, instead of asking for help, just chosen to take on certain tasks and projects fully herself. Okay. So, while she feels like her partner isn't stepping up, she also hasn't been giving them an opportunity to do so, because when said things come up, instead of asking for the help, whether she gets rejected or not, she just says, I'll just take care of it myself. I don't even want to have this conversation. I'll just do it all for me. Okay. So again, not living in alignment with what she's trying to create. So obviously she's at the point where she wants to exit this partnership. But I think more so what she's looking for, it's not the partnership itself. If she had a healthy partnership, a healthy business partnership, she'd stay, right? So what she's actually looking for is just a place of feeling in alignment, right? But she's at the point now where she feels like she needs to exit. Well, if she was actually living in alignment with just a healthier dynamic in her business period, she would ask for the help. She would voice her opinion more. She would, speak up when things were out of place or she didn't like things. But what had been happening is she just kept quiet on everything. Because in her mind, she's reasoning that she didn't want to ruffle any feathers because she just didn't feel like she had the energy to deal with it. And B, in that same notion, she just took on things herself because she's like, it's just easier if I do it. It's just easier if I take care of it myself. Right. But then again, what is that leading to? Right. So whatever you're trying to bring in, A, be really truthful. And then B, ask yourself if you're living in alignment with that. I often say that with my clients and for myself, a big goal for everybody is freedom. And that's freedom from an internal place, like not feeling like you're constantly at odds with yourself, or you're, struggling internally or suffering and feeling exhausted and burnt out and overwhelmed. And so everyone wants this aspect of internal freedom. And I say, well, freedom and control don't work together. They're two opposite ends of the spectrum. So if you're checking your email 20 times a day, if you're answering all the text messages at work, if you're not delegating to other people, if you are having a hard time shutting off your brain from work because you're scared something's going to go wrong, or if you don't do it, no one else is going to be able to do it, that aspect of control cannot exist with someone who's truly free, right? So if you're trying to create a life with more freedom, you have to be willing to let go of control. And that doesn't mean on a big scale. That means starting with something simple. That means I'm not going to look at my email past 5 o'clock. That means I'm not going to open my email till I've had half an hour to myself in the morning. That means that email, I could get to it today. I could stay an extra 15 minutes to answer it, but it's going to sit till tomorrow morning and it's going to be okay. Like, are you living and showing up in alignment with the life that you want to create, right? If, you're trying to create a life of more financial abundance, are you still operating from a scarcity mode? Are you still really penny pinching? Are you constantly negotiating on things? Are you being open and sharing your money with the people that you love? Like, and obviously that's going to be in regards to where you're at financially. But if you're trying to have more abundance and be more free in that area, are you acting from a place of freedom? Not recklessly, but responsibly, right? If you're trying to draw in a partner, are you creating space for them in your life? Or is everything super busy? You don't have time to fit in time for them, and you want to do everything on your own, and you don't want to be intimate. You don't want to share your feelings. You don't want to tell your truth. Like, if you're trying to create a long-term partner, are you actually creating space for them in your life? Are you actually operating from this place? Okay. And the third fact is, can you visualize you actually having said thing already? And visualization is a practice that's used among professional athletes, I was a dancer all my life, a professional dancer, competed on a high level, and we would, before any major competition or performance, we would just sometimes in practice just lay in a circle and we'd visualize the routine over and over again, right? Because the brain doesn't know the difference between whether you're actually living it in real life or you're just walking through the steps. It has no idea. But every time you do that, what it's doing is it's firing and wiring new neurons and pathways in your brain to make it more of a reality. And what happens is when you do that, that's when it starts from the brain, it goes into the heart. Now you can feel what it's like to walk through those moments. And that's what co-creates with the universe. Your heart is an electromagnetic field. Okay. And that's what starts to draw on the frequencies and experiences from the universe to make these things a reality. Okay. So if you are trying to go back to that same example, manifest a healthy business relationship, a healthy business, can you sit there and can you visualize you going to work and having a morning meeting with your partner and being able to express your true authentic needs? Are you able to visualize having a disagreement with your partner, but being able to say your truth in the moment and know you're going to be able to continue moving forward after? Are you able to visualize hitting a certain target, meeting a certain demand that you haven't been able to before? Like, when it comes to visualization, you don't just visualize like crossing the finish line. You visualize everything that would happen on the path of making that goal a reality. Okay. So that's why visualizing that the good moments between you and the business partner is important, and visualizing the moments of having some friction, but being able to say your truth and know you're going to work through it is also just as important, because that's reality, right? So with whatever you're trying to draw into your life, can you sit there? Can you embody it? Can you close your eyes? Can you walk as if it is actually happening? Right. And, again, when we talk about manifestation, people talk about vision boards and they talk about, thinking about when you have the big house, the big car, the marriage, whatever the case is. Like, yeah, those things are important. But can you walk your body through what it takes to get there? Right? Like, can you walk your body and reenact the steps of what it would take to have said goal? If I look back at my dance days, we at one point competed on the world hip hop stage, and we ended up coming up third in the world. So out of 52 countries, we placed third. It was first time ever competing on that level, and we threw it together in a whim. To be honest, we changed our routine 3 times over the course of 3 days, which was damn near suicide, but it worked out for us. But when we visualized, we didn't visualize the medal placement. We visualized hitting our marks, being in unison, making sure we stayed right in the pocket of the beat, making sure we had high energy. We visualized being on stage, executing the performance to the highest degree. We didn't necessarily visualize the medal. We just visualized what it took to have an incredible performance. And that's what we did, right? So when you're visualizing whatever you're trying to draw in, can you walk yourself through those motions, right? And that also goes back to then now when you can visualize what it would take to get to said goal, that's when you can also bring that back now into step 2 of actually showing up in that way, right? So again, if the visualization is, I want to be able to have a conversation with my business partner and tell them that, hey, I didn't like how you handled this. Maybe this even hurt my feelings. And can we come up with a different solution? So that's the visualization. Maybe right now in reality, it feels like, oh, I don't know if I can actually do that. But if you can visualize that that's a necessary step in a healthy dynamic, once you visualized it enough time, eventually the opportunity is going to present itself where you can actually act it out in real life, right? And then by you being able to act it out in real life, that brings you one step closer to actually whatever the bigger goal is for you to create, right? So maybe I'd switch around 2 and 3 as far as order. But I think you guys get the point. It goes hand in hand. But like, this is what it takes to truly manifest and co-create with the universe, right? And that's, again, going back, what are you doing for those other 10, 12 hours a day? And this is where that stuff actually shows up. This stuff doesn't necessarily show up in your 1 hour of meditating and journaling. Like, yeah, it can a little bit, but where it's going to have the most impact is that in just how you're living your daily life. Now, the thing is, what I'm telling you to do is you're going to have to do from your conscious mind for the first little bit. And we have to remember that our conscious actions and behaviors are only 5 to 8% of our day. Okay. The other 92 to 95% of our actions, behaviors, thoughts, feelings are all subconscious. They're all already programmed. They're autopilot. So what I'm telling you to do as far as what you want to create in your life is going to only have to come from a small percentage of your consciousness. However, the more you repeat it, eventually when it becomes so habitual for you to behave, respond, act in these ways, now we have a chance of reprogramming the subconscious where that can now be included into that. And now it can be part of your 95% strategy versus your 5% strategy. Right? So the point is to get to a place where the actions, behaviors, thoughts, feelings, etc., that are needed to live that reality now become second nature to you. And this is when the magic of the universe, God, whatever, starts to come into play. And because your internal state has shifted to live life as you want it, the external reality will shift as well to match accordingly. Okay? So as we're winding down for this Christmas season, as you're preparing to go into 2025 and you're starting to think about how you want next year to look different, I urge you to really use these 3 points to your advantage. Like, don't let another year go by where you're on autopilot. Don't let another year go by where you're just falling to your subconscious programming and just living in survival mode. Like, life's too short, and there's just so much more available to all of us than we realize. But as long as we choose to stay in the same patterns, as long as we choose to just think that this is our reality, and as long as we choose to think that we're doing everything on our own, okay? Like, I'm the first person to take accountability and responsibility. Like, I get how powerful that is. But you have to understand that there's a bigger cosmic energy at play that is responding to your every behavior, action, thought, and that you can use to your advantage if you know how to do it properly. Okay. And I've just seen it. Like, this year, I sat and reflected on it this year. And what I've done this year, while I have so much more I want to do, what has come to fruition has really been incredible. And I'm so grateful. And it was because I just really understood how to use my nervous system to my advantage, because that's a whole nother ball game. Most of us, our nervous system is actually working against what we want to create, and that's no fault of your own, but it's based on a survival strategy. So learning to use my nervous system to my advantage allowed me to realize how to really work with the universe and co-create with it a life that actually feels in alignment and free and purposeful to me. So whatever you're trying to bring in for 2025, I hope these 3 tips will help you. If you have an idea and you want to share, please tag me on Instagram, DM me. Like, I love to talk about this stuff with people. I love to talk with you guys about this stuff. Like, just tell me what you're trying to create. Tell me what you're trying to draw in. Because there's just so much more available to us than we even realize. And I know I just hope 2025 can be far beyond your expectations. And that doesn't mean it's not going to come with its challenges. Like, none of us are exempt for that. It's going to happen. But you being able to navigate those challenges in a way that resonates, that propels you on your growth, and that really just brings you closer to the reality you want to live. That's just my wish for all of you. So that's everything for today, guys. We'll see you in the next episode.